Hey, welcome to Faith and Flavor. We hope you're having a great day. I hope you had a great holiday season. I hope that I have my microphone on. I do. Don't panic, guys. I got my microphone on. If you don't feel like you're in a great season of your life, which I know that a lot of people have been there will probably be a lot more that face some things that aren't always the happiest and funnest, but we have hope. We have hope, right? So no matter what the season we are in our life, begin to see purpose come out of it. Look for a silver line. Was at work this week, and one of the girls was talking about something on her job, and she was so stressed. And then she said, "But," and then she came out with a good positive note. And I was like, "Yeah, wait." And I told her, I was like, "Way to go to find the silver line there, girl." And so, when we are in situations, the circumstances, it does not change our identity. It doesn't. It changes maybe look some of the things that look different about us if we're looking through the natural eyes, the different things around us. But if we're looking through spiritual eyes, we have to, or we begin to see purpose no matter what it looks like around us. And so I'm going to go ahead and start this here so we can get into the word a little bit. But basically, I have broccoli, and I don't really know. I've never made it. So I've made broccoli before, but I've never made it in the air fryer. And I have never made this recipe. And I couldn't really find anything online, so I just made something up. So we're going to see. But what I did read when I was reading and looking stuff up, it said to wash your broccoli, which obviously we hope you always do. Even if it says pre-washed, I like to wash it. And then it says leave it wet. So I don't know if I left it wet enough, but we'll find out. If it burns, we know I did not.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, for not to burn it. Okay.
But I washed it. I broke it up into smaller pieces. Yes, we wash our hands. And I just kind of broke it up. I left a little bit of the stem on it, But I put salt and pepper, just a little of salt, a little bit more than that, but I've already salted. And then pepper, and I don't think you can ever have too much pepper because I like pepper. And then I did my trusty, I bought these things when I redid my kitchen many years ago, and this has a magnet on the top. So I put a little metal tray underneath my cabinet. So now all I got to do is push this up and it holds it right by the stove, right? So sort of like, well, y'all can't see it, but cabinet,
that's very
metal,
cool.
and it just kind of hangs there. So, and this is just, you hear that? That was my magnet. This is just granulated garlic, and to me, this really is the secret, in my opinion. And I've already garliced it, so I'm not gonna. I mean, not that you can have too much garlic, but I'm just not gonna overpower everybody today. But I love garlic on my broccoli. Garlic, salt, and pepper is the only thing I do on my broccoli when I'm making for the family. But because it is what it is.
Do you have a pack of your husband's Altoids on the side after you eat that garlic?
I know he carries Altoids with him everywhere he goes. Oh, that's right. I got to make that order today too. Anyhow, all I'm doing, I forgot the bacon. Like that's a travesty, right? For Lisa.
Oh, she must have had a chaotic morning.
I did. So all I'm doing right now, and I'm trying to get it to where it's on top of the broccoli, not like falling like to the side like I just did that piece. But I'm just throwing some. I just had some pepperoni. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw that in there. And then and I line this with I'm not fancy like the whole easy little fancy bowl thing you stick in there. Well, I was, but I can't find my fancy. So now we just get not fancy. And then I just put parchment paper in there. So hopefully it don't stick because after this cooks a few minutes.
Your husband's off camera pointing that you do have them over there.
Oh, I do. Oops. I lied. No wonder I couldn't find them. They weren't at home. They were here. So, but anyhow, parchment paper does work. So if you get in a pinch, parchment paper will, well, I hope it will work.
We'll just say it's easier to pick up.
Yes, but we do want to tuck this in because I don't want that hitting the heat light. So I'll make sure that that's tucked in. Sorry for the crunchiness.
There we go. Okay.
So we're going to put this in. I'm going to put it on 375
for the cheese.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we're going to let it cook for a few minutes, and then we'll put cheese on the top to melt it. And we're going to power. It's on 3. Well, we're going to set on 380. Feels about right. And we're going to do 5 minutes for the first. Well, I'm going to put it on 10, and that way if I have to pause it, we'll pause it. Go. Okay, let's cross our fingers. Pray really hard. But anyhow, I want to talk today a little bit about Gideon and how he was obviously Israelites, and they had had victories, and now they're hiding from the Midianites. And he's up in the wine press, and he's separating the wheat and the chaff, right? And he's up there, and he's hiding. So technically, he was up there surviving in survival mode. He was working from survival mode. And I know that I've been in survival mode many times. So finding yourself in survival mode really kind of isn't the travesty to our humanity, right? Now, of course, if you're this big Bible scholar and you want to quote all the word and you want to do all this stuff and be the preacher who's never found yourself in survival mode, please go ahead. Have fun at it. But I have been in survival mode, and I know most of you guys watching, and probably you, and anybody else who's hearing this, has operated many times out of survival mode. But your name was always Jacqueline. Your name was always Julie, or whatever your name is, Sarah, whatever. My name is always Lisa. It didn't matter what survival mode I was in. My identity never changed. It never changed. And so when Gideon was up there, it says an angel of the Lord came to him and said, basically, that he called him a mighty man of valor. Even though Gideon didn't feel very valorous in that moment. He felt very defeated and scared and hiding and trying to survive and all of this. But it didn't change who God saw him as.
Right. We may feel like that inside, like our worth or our value isn't up to par, but God's never felt that way about us.
That's right. Not only does he not feel that way about us, but we have people watching us too and seeing how we react in situations. And I'm not saying that even when we know people are watching us, as a pastor's wife, myself, or as somebody who's worked with youth many, many, many years, people who I work with on my job, when they come in, they say, "Can you just pray for me?" Or I know that people know where I stand on a lot of things, right? You don't sit across from somebody for an hour at a time, every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, for years at a time, and not begin to form a relationship and know where their heart is, right? It doesn't mean that I was always in a victorious spot. There's been times I've sat there and cried with my clients that I felt comfortable crying with because I was very stressed or whatever. And I don't do it with every client, obviously, but I have clients that are, all my clients are basically my friends, but I have ones that are closer. I've known for 25-ish years, right? And they'll come in and they'll start working and they're like, "What's going on?" And sometimes I'm just so heavy that it's hard. And there's times when maybe we feel like, am I really in this? Am I really doing the right thing? Am I really? And we start questioning our identity. But when God sent the angel of the Lord to say, "Hey, you mighty man of valor, you're going to do this, and I will be with you." So he had to move out in obedience, in trust, and in the presence of the Lord, because he said, he will surely be with you. So if we begin to look at not the circumstances, which is very hard to do, and to look at the other side of the circumstance. Start seeing it from a heavenly view, not our skewed, I don't want to say human view because we are human, right?
Right.
Not our skewed
Perception.
Perception. That's a good word. I'm going to check this because I'm smelling it. So. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's supposed to be a little crunchy and not necessarily soft, but it actually smells really good right now. So I'm going to throw on some cheese, and we'll catch the Gideon thought in just a second.
Well, what I was saying to Joe who said that is, God is always gives us everything that we need. It's Him that tells us we've got to move forward. We can't just say, I believe or I trust. We've got to show it through, our internal mind and our actions. Because like you said, people do watch us. And I think sometimes that we have to be careful because we can be judged by others. They don't mean to, but they might say, well, if she can't get through this hurdle, how can I?
Right.
And so, but that, like I said, our strength in that and doing and climbing that hill and, you know, being to feel worthy, I guess, is the same as, telling God, if you're with us all this time, we can make it through and we can be a great example to somebody else, in that struggle.
We can be a great example, but it also builds our faith when we come through it.
Oh, that's
Not
so
just
true.
as a great example, although great example was obviously right the point. We want to be an example to our youth and to our followers, to the people we come in contact with, our peers on our job, our spouses, our kids, or whatever. But we also know that when we come through it, look, when Gideon started, he had thousands, right? And he was up against thousands. And then God instructed him certain ways, which I'm not going to take the time to get into all that. But God instructed him in certain ways to weed out the men he had that was supposed to go fight.
Right.
And he wound up with very few men from what he started with. I believe it was 300.
Yep.
And when he went into the battle with 300 men, one of the things that stand out to me is they had to hide a light in clay pots, right? They're little. But then they had to bust the clay pots. Sometimes we have to let the light shine from us. That's a witness to everybody. But we have to get out of our clay. We're made of the dust of the earth, right? We're clay vessels, right? And so we have to get out of ourself. We have to break ourself. We can't stay hidden, the light hidden inside ourselves. We have to come out of our humanity way of thinking, our human way of thinking, and look and let the light do the fight for us, right? And so, in all of the stuff that I started taking notes and stuff for Gideon, and that he was working from survival mode, not victory. But as the angel of the Lord began to call him his identity, he began to entertain more of who he really was and not who he was in the moment. Your circumstances do not negate God's calling and his view of you, right? We can change our view of us, but God doesn't.
And see, that's interesting. We can, and we can let others, but God sees us as the same. And if we stay focused on Him, like He is the light, He is the life. And if we stay focused on that and give it all to Him, it's like going through the situation I went through a couple months ago and thinking, the darkest of times, being in the hospital, but I was able to hear, God's voice saying, "Did you not forget I'm with you always?" And that was the biggest thing, is to then just give it over to Him. The sad part for me is I didn't start that way when I was in the hospital, and I should have, because I would have never gone through, I hope I would never gone through that dark purpose, but never did I think I'm not going to get to the other side. I just took that dip that I didn't need to if I had thought of Him as a light, like I said, then to come out and to be that for others, to give them, the two shoulders, the two ears, and just the one mouth.
Well, even though, like, I hear you, and even though you feel that way, God didn't judge that circumstance that you felt you could have done better in, right? I believe even the best of the best, if you will, who get up and speak to thousands and all of this stuff, I believe there are times when they have a lot of falter. And, our circumstances can speak, right? It can speak fear, it can speak doubt, all of that. But heaven speaks of identity. Heaven speaks of purpose. Heaven speaks of victory. And if we Don't get it right the first time, God's not going to throw you out.
That's right.
You know,
Absolutely.
He's not going to get rid of your identity.
You know, and I think too that's why. I mean, just in my opinion, why some big leaders do falter because they're put on a pedestal like they're supposed to be so much better or so much more spiritual or godly, and that's not what God sees us. We went on a trip one time with the head honcho of the company, and somebody said, "Oh my gosh, what's it like going?" I said, "He puts his pants on the same way we do, one leg at a time." And that's what you need to be. We're all the same in God's eyes, but we have to remember our worth is because we're a daughter or a son of the Most High. And the fact that people may judge us, but as long as we know who we are in Christ,
right,
then at the end of the day and the end of our journey, that's what's going to matter the most.
That's right. Well, even though Gideon was first of all, in the circumstance, Gideon was not acting like a mighty man of valor. He was acting like his circumstances.
Right.
But God called him out of it.
Yeah.
But God called him out of it by his identity, not by his shortcoming. He didn't say, Gideon, you're sitting down here and He came in and he sent the angel of the Lord and said, God is with thee, thou mighty man of valor. And so God's identity of him never changed. He always saw Gideon as victorious, even when Gideon wasn't in the natural being victorious or thinking victorious, right? If we go and I'm going to read some of first of all, we're coming from Judges chapter 6 and most of the things that we're talking about today. But Gideon's environment was oppressed, but his identity was undefeated. Period. There was no room for doubt with God or the angel that God sent in Gideon's identity. There's no doubt in your identity. If you're going through a hard time and you're going through a situation and you feel, and listen, it's been rough in a lot of times, but it don't change who we are. It doesn't change who God says we are. It doesn't change our victorious outcome that's written already for us. It doesn't, it might begin to work on your mind, that's true, but it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. God's environment is not oppression. God's environment is victory. And if we begin to change the environment of our brain and of our thinking, we will begin to entertain and live in victory. It doesn't mean that circumstances won't come at all. It does mean that when it comes, we have a little more oomph with us, right? God did not wait for Gideon to feel brave to call him valiant. He already saw him that way. God doesn't name you. These are just things that I have written down here. God does not rename you based on what you're surviving. Hiding doesn't cancel heaven's declaration. And one of the things that I tell people a lot of time is we argue as humans with heaven's yes all the time. We cannot negotiate with the world's no, and we cannot negotiate with heaven's yes. If heaven said yes, that's what it is. And if our speech would line up with heaven's yes, we will walk in victory. Even when the circumstances look tough,
Right.
We are still mighty men and women of valor.
Can you imagine how much we could change our lives by
Yeah.
that one simple statement?
So much.
I mean, and that's why it said, you can get up in the morning and go, oh goodness, this morning, or thank God I have another morning. And I have little post-it notes on my mirror to remind myself of stuff because it is quick. I mean, it only takes one person to say something negative for you to think that of yourself. But if you're like, but that's not what God thinks of me.
That's right.
And to live that way, and not in a conceited, proud way, but an assurance of what He has guaranteed us.
Absolutely. Well, we're kind of out of time, but I'm gonna pull up one of these and I'm gonna taste it.
It looks absolutely
It smells so good. That's pretty good.
And
Pretty good.
that was so easy to make too.
That's
I'm going to have to pull my air fryer out, get the dust off of it because it's been in the cabinet for a long time. But that's a piece of cake to make, really.
Yeah, that was easy, and it's actually really good. I would salt it a little more. I might would add a little more garlic.
I put a little hot
Sorry,
sauce
you're
on
going to
it.
have
No,
to
no,
be over the next few podcasts.
I love you anyway. But I little hot sauce. Yeah,
But
I'd be
that's
in.
really good. If you'll give me a plate, I'll plate it up and show them. And then you can have some. It's so good.
So I can,
There we go. There you go. I'll just help it on.
You can tell we're live. Okay, there we go.
Anyhow, so yummy.
That-
And it's really not fattening. If
No,
you're
not
on
at
a keto thing, it's very keto friendly. I'm sure there's some sodium in there, but I would add more salt. So I hope you have a great day and a great day on purpose.